everyone, I'm FenFen, and welcome to the first episode of our Beyond the Great podcast. For this first episode, we thought we'd keep things simple. Just introduce ourselves a little, talk about how the four of us somehow ended up sitting here together, and also share why we felt this conversation might actually be meaningful. Because although all four of us came from different backgrounds, over the years we realized that as Kumon instructors, we have a rather unusual opportunity to observe children over a long period of time. And that gives us a perspective that may be useful, especially for parents with younger children. So first, let me introduce Anna. Anna and I actually go back a very long way, more than 18 years already.
Wow.
Which sounds a little scary when I say it out loud. We first met when we were both working at Kumon's Asia Pacific office. Back then, we worked on many conferences together, organized events, and spent many late nights preparing for meetings, solving problems, and sometimes wondering why deadlines always came so fast. Although we both left the company after that, somehow we both came back to the same place. Both of us eventually opened our own Kumon centers. Anna opened her center about 12 years ago. Anna, maybe say hello first and tell us a little about how you landed here.
Yes. Hi, I'm Anna. Before opening my own Kumon Center, I was teaching in a secondary school. So most of my earlier experience was with teenagers, which already tells you quite a lot. What stayed with me very strongly was that many students struggled not because they couldn't learn, but because their foundation was weak. When they came to algebra, even simple multiplication or basic calculation could already become a barrier. Many students depended heavily on calculators, and that affected their confidence too. So very often, I found myself having to go all the way back to very simple basics before they could move forward. Then when I came to Kumon, I realized something very valuable. Here we can actually start from where each child is and rebuild step by step. And when the foundation becomes stronger, you really see children change.
Yes. And I think many adults only realize how important foundation is when the child is already older, when panic starts a little. And another person here who came into education from a very different angle is Rebekah. Rebekah, maybe you'll introduce yourself?
Thank you. Hello, I'm Rebekah. Before Kumon, I spent about 13 years in the early childhood sector. And one thing I always felt was that children definitely grow, but sometimes that growth is not easy to observe. Not clearly, and in a very short time, we can't see much.
Yeah, especially when they're very young. Sometimes parents feel nothing is happening, but actually many things are happening.
Exactly. And because I had once worked as a Kumon instructor earlier in my life, I remembered very clearly that Kumon gave a lot of structure, and somehow that structure made growth easier to notice. That stayed in my mind for a long time, and eventually brought me back to Kumon, and it's been 5 years since.
Then there's Ivy. Ivy also used to work in Kumon office, so we had crossed paths before. But we became much more familiar later when she sent her son to my center for the math program. And after that, many conversations started.
Yes, many conversations. Hi, I'm Ivy. For me, what first attracted me to Kumon was actually the philosophy. When I first heard people talking about potential and world peace through education, it immediately reminded me of my own school days. I was actually from one of the weaker classes in school, and very often nobody expected much. But there was one teacher who noticed that I could write, and she gave me a chance to join a writing competition. I won the third prize, and honestly, that changed how I saw myself. That made me realize how powerful recognition can be.
Oh yes, sometimes one teacher really stays in your memory for life.
Yes, exactly. And I think that stayed with me all the way until I eventually opened my own center.
And I think maybe one thing that makes our conversations a little different is that although all of us came from different backgrounds, early childhood, secondary school, and our own parenting experiences, once we became Kumon instructors, we all started seeing children in a very particular way. Because in many educational settings, teachers usually see only one stage of a child. A preschool teacher sees the early years. A secondary school teacher sees the teenager years. But in Kumon, very often we meet children when they are very young, and then somehow they stayed with us for many years.
Yes, sometimes you realize you have watched someone grow.
And sometimes you realize you have watched the parents grow too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because when you see a child over many years, you are not just seeing one result. You begin to notice patterns, how confidence develops, how habits form, how children respond when learning becomes difficult.
And I think that long view changes how we interpret many things. Because sometimes what looks worry at one stage may not feel the same when you know where the child started.
Yes, a child who looks slow now may already have come very far.
Yeah, and sometimes something that looks small early on becomes very important later.
And maybe that is why we feel these conversations may be useful, especially for parents of younger children. Because when children are small, many important things are already happening, even when results are not obvious yet. Over the years, all of us have seen children doing very well. And we have also seen cases that stayed in our minds for a very long time. Sometimes encouraging, sometimes a little painful. And many times after center hours, after classes, after talking to parents, we will still continue discussing. Why did this happen?
And often the answer is not simple.
Because it is rarely just about one worksheet or one subject.
Sometimes adults are all trying very hard, but not always in the same direction.
Yes. And maybe that is exactly why we wanted to start this podcast. Not because we have perfect answers.
Oh no, definitely not.
And still learning.
Yeah, definitely still learning. But perhaps because after seeing many children over many years, we realize that some conversations are worth having openly. And maybe parents may also find some of these reflections useful. So maybe for our next episode, we can start with one very simple question. What image do parents actually have of the child they hope to raise? Because very often, what we say we want and what we do every day are not always exactly the same.
That sounds like a dangerous topic already.
Yes, but probably a very real one.
So if you are listening, maybe think about that question too, and we'll continue from there next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you.